Good evening, everyone. My name is Lauren Pinder, and this is my process speech. How many of you know what blood pressure is? Blood pressure is the force of blood pushing against the arteries as it circulates through the body. How many of you at this moment know what your normal blood pressure is? Not many people do. In fact, according to the American Heart Association, 1 in 3 adults in the United States has high blood pressure, but because there are no symptoms, nearly 1/3 of these people do not know they have it. I have come across many individuals that have been living with high blood pressure for years and were not aware of it. When left untreated, high blood pressure can be deadly and is the major cause of heart attacks, stroke, and heart failures. The Consumer Health Information Corporation reports that every year, 7 million people die too young from untreated high blood pressure. As a nursing student, checking blood pressure, understanding the values of the readings, and teaching individuals to take blood pressure is a very important skill. Blood pressure can be measured by using 3 important steps: gathering the materials, following a specific procedure, and interpreting the blood pressure readings. There are 3 things that are needed to measure someone's blood pressure: a stethoscope, a sphygmometer, and a living arm. Checking blood pressure is done by following a specific procedure that can be broken down into 4 steps. Following the procedure steps in order is important to ensure that you have an accurate reading. Before you begin, make sure that the individual you are taking blood pressure on is sitting in a comfortable position with their sleeves rolled up or out of the way, and that their arm is resting on a table with their palms up and at heart level. You are going to need to feel or palpate for the brachial artery by placing your first 2 fingers on the inside of the elbow. As you are doing this, ask the individual what their normal blood pressure is, because this will help you when you are getting started taking their blood pressure. When you have located the brachial artery by its pulse, you are ready to begin taking blood pressure. You are going to first wrap the blood pressure cuff around the upper arm just above the elbow so that there is about 1 inch between the cuff and the inner elbow. Close the valve on the bowl, but not so tightly that it is difficult to open when you begin to release the air. Next, you are going to place the earpieces of the stethoscope in your ears and the diaphragm over the brachial pulse site. Squeeze the bulb repeatedly and pump up the cuff 30 points higher than the usual blood pressure. If they don't know their blood pressure, then pump the cuff up 30 points beyond the number where the pulse was last heard. Once this is done, you should not hear a pulse. The 3rd step in taking blood pressure is to close the valve to allow air to escape the cuff. Watch the gauge closely so that you know which number on the dial the needle is pointing to when the first sound is heard. This number is known as the systolic pressure. Continue to release the air slowly. When the beating sound stops, read the number on the gauge. This is the bottom number, or the diastolic number. The 4th step and final step is to release the rest of the air out of the cuff and remove the cuff from their arm. You should write down the systolic and diastolic pressure readings so that way you can compare it to future results. Knowing your blood pressure is important, but if you aren't able to interpret the numbers and understand what they mean, then the reading is meaningless. According to the National Heart and Lung and Blood Institute, normal blood pressure for a healthy adult between the ages of 18 and 45 is a systolic pressure of 120 millimeters of mercury or below, and a diastolic pressure of 80 millimeters of mercury or below. A diastolic pressure between 120 and 139 and a diastolic pressure between 80 and 89 is considered pre-hypertension. High blood pressure or hypertension is considered anything over a systolic pressure of 140 or a diastolic pressure over 90. There are 2 stages of hypertension. Stage 1 is a systolic pressure between 140 and 159 or a diastolic pressure between 90 and 99. The 2nd stage of hypertension is a systolic pressure of 160 or higher and a diastolic of 100 or higher. Not many people have just the single. Hypertension causes excessive pressure on the artery walls that leads to damage of the blood vessels. Uncontrolled blood pressure can lead to heart attack, stroke, kidney damage, vision loss, memory impairment, and aneurysms. It is not only important for you to know your blood pressure and understand it, but it is also to take steps to maintain normal blood pressure for those with high blood pressure to lower it. It is estimated that 65 million people are currently battling high blood pressure, and every year over 7 million people die from this disease. Unlike many illnesses that develop signs and symptoms associated to the disease, high blood pressure is a silent killer that leaves 50% of people that have it asymptomatic and left untreated. With such a high prevalence of high blood pressure, it is important to have your blood pressure checked every year with a physical examination. For individuals that have high blood pressure, it is important for them to routinely monitor their blood pressure frequently. Taking your blood pressure is easy, inexpensive, and takes only a couple minutes to do. I urge each of you to take the time to learn this life-saving skill and practice it regularly. I have made brochures for each of you so that once I'm finished, you will be able to perform the skill steps step by step using the instructions I have provided. In addition to the brochure, I am also giving each of you a blood pressure IQ quiz to see how much you know about blood pressure. I would like to thank you all for allowing me to teach you a little bit about the steps of taking blood pressure and to remind all of you that a healthy heart today makes for a happier you tomorrow. Thank you.